In the UK alone, we dispose of about 1.2 million tonnes of fabric waste every year. And I don't know about you, but that is a little bit shocking to me. I contribute towards it. I'm a sewist and I'm guilty of throwing fabric away. So my pledge in 2026 is to become zero waste with fabric and garments. Hi there, I'm Christine the Gemini Stitcher and welcome to 2026. I've had my channel for just over 2 years now and made some amazing garments, and I met lots of people and had lots of fun with you guys. But the downside to creating so many garments is that I have created a lot of fabric waste and I've not been managing it very well. So I've pledged in 2026 to try and become zero waste on the fabric and garment front. And today I'm going to talk about how I'm going to do it, what I'm going to do, and just a general chat really of whether it will work. If you've got any ideas that you can share with me, please let me know. I need all the help I can get, let's face it. I am a serious fabric thrower and I want to become a fabric hero in 2026. So let's have a delve into how I'm going to try to achieve it. So let's start by talking fabric. And I'm going to fess up. In these cubbies behind me here, I've just counted up and there are currently 59 fabrics. And that is just my winter fabrics. I also have about 20 odd that have been put away that are just for the spring and summer. So yeah, I am managing my fabric stash, but I'm not decreasing it. So I've come to terms with that now. I love my stash. I like having choices. And yes, I would like to still reduce it a little bit, but if I don't, fabric waste control is going to be more important to me this year. So fabric is where it all starts, isn't it? We go online, we shop in person, we buy our fabrics, and if I can control my fabric buying, the knock-on effect is going to be that there will be less fabric waste, because I won't have fabrics in my stash that I don't love anymore, I'm not going to use, and that in itself can be a problem. So I have still got quite a few fabrics in the old sewing shack that need clearing out, and I'm going to do that in January and start with a clean slate on the fabric front. But what am I going to do with those fabrics if I don't love them anymore? Well, there's a few options, aren't there? So there are quite a few solutions to how to offload my fabrics. I take them to my sewing social and to other sewing socials that I go to, and other sewists get some love out of the fabrics that I no longer love anymore. We can destash, and I have a destash channel. There may be some fabrics that go on there sometime soon. So watch this space and we'll see what happens in January. So the one thing that I've not been doing with my no longer loved fabrics is donating them to a charity. And I have found a local charity to me in Bolton that will take fabrics. So I will, at some point in January, be taking everything out of the sewing shack that I no longer love, and I'm going to take them all to that charity. And I'm sure there are some across the country. If I can find a link to a website that tells you where these charities are, a charity directory, then I'll pop it in the details below, and I will also pop the details of the one in Bolton. So to try and stop this happening going forward, I will be buying with intention. None of this, oh, I love that fabric but I don't know what to make with it. If I don't know what to make with it, I'm not buying it. I've got to know the pattern. Will it work? When am I going to make it? And if it's not going to be in the next few months, I don't buy it. That is going to be really hard for me, because we all love a bit of impulse buying, don't we? I have already virtually stopped buying online. I only buy online if I'm 100% certain that 1, I love the fabric, 2, I know what I'm going to make with it, and 3, I am confident in the quality of the fabric that I am going to receive. Because that is the biggest thing with me. I've ended up with quite a few fabrics in my stash that when they've come online, I've been really disappointed with them. So, you're disappointed in a fabric, you're not going to use it, are you? So, that's a little chat about fabrics. So, what happens next with our fabrics? We cut them out, don't we? So we've got our fabric, we know what we want to make with it, and we absolutely love it to bits. When you cut it out, you're going to get scraps, aren't you? But there is a really good way of not having any scraps to deal with, and that's by cutting out zero waste pattern cutting. Now, I'm clueless on this, I've never done it before. But one of my Christmas presents, which actually sparked all this off, was a book all about zero waste patterns. And I've been having a quick read through it. This book is by, excuse me if I'm saying it wrong, Birgitta Helmersson. And it's a really interesting read, even if you don't do any of the patterns in the book. But they're all zero waste. So you draft them yourself. So if you want to start out on pattern drafting, it's also a good way to learn that, which is one of the skills I want to try to do, maybe in 2026. So in the front cover, there are a few basic curve shapes that you need, and you trace these out, which means you're using paper. I know, another waste product, but you're only tracing out the curve parts. So there's the back pocket of the trousers, the sleeve head for the shirt on the front cover, and then inside the back cover there's some facings for the shirt and crotch curve for the trousers. So they're in the covers, and that's the only templates you get. Everything else you draft yourself. Eek. But you know, it'll be fine. I can do it. So what is zero waste pattern drafting? It's a method of pattern drafting where you utilise the whole of a predetermined size or piece of fabric. You use the whole of the fabric end to end, so there is absolutely no waste. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? And in 2026, I'm going to be giving it a go. I'm going to be using this book, and there are 5 pattern blocks in it for starting off, and then you can adapt those 5 blocks to make a total of 20 garments. Now, most of these patterns are sort of veering towards spring and summer wear, I've got to be honest. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But over the winter, I'm going to be twirling them in some old bed sheets to see for sizing before I commit to doing any of them. Get the sizing right first, because that's important. Particularly when you haven't got a clue what you're doing. So the 5 blocks that are in here, there's a t-shirt, trousers. The trousers I'm quite interested in doing. A singlet. Let me just show you what they mean by a singlet. So that's the singlet. And I'm quite interested in making a few of those. Not just for the spring and summer, but as a layering garment to keep my old lady body warm through the winter. Now, it's done in a woven fabric, but I'm sure that I could do it in jersey. So that might be something that I play around with while I'm getting to understand the patterns. So there's a singlet, a skirt, which is a gathered skirt, long floaty number, you know, the type that makes you look like an old lady. So that might not happen. And a shirt. So you've got the 5 blocks. The idea is that you make those 5 garments up and use those to tweak the sizing. So the sizing on these patterns goes from an extra small up to a 6XL. So huge size range as well, which is a little bit of an issue with patterns, isn't it? So let's have a look. They give you the layouts. Now, there's very detailed instructions, and they do give you the template for your layout for your pattern. And that one is the one for the trouser pattern. So depending on your size, so let's have a look at the trouser pattern. Cutting. So you decide on the width of your and length of your fabric depending on the size of the pattern. So I predetermined I need to be doing a size small in the trousers. So they're saying the fabric width for a size small needs to be 55 inches. And with a 55-inch width of fabric, the length I need is 1.2 meters. Now, I normally, when I'm making a normal pattern, not a zero waist pattern, would always order 1.5 meters. So immediately, by doing these trousers and doing them as a zero waist option, I'm saving myself 30 centimeters of fabric buying. And I know that I'm going to use the whole of the fabric. So obviously not all my patterns are going to be out of this book this year. It's unrealistic, and I am going to be using new patterns, existing patterns, whatever takes my fancy, because that's the fun of sewing, and I don't want to take the fun out of it, because then I'll fall out with it and I won't follow this through. So I will be using normal patterns as well, probably predominantly normal patterns, and that in itself has a problem because I'm going to have fabric scraps. I know. What do we do with them? Now, I've been tidying up my fabric cubbies. They're all nice and tidy-ish for me. And there were a lot of scraps in there already. So you'll remember if you watch my fabric scrap busting vlog earlier in December, I had this empty fabric scrap bin that I was using, and nothing could exceed this. I had to keep all my scraps in here and control them throughout the year. So it's full already, and we're on the 1st of January. But I have made a start on controlling it. I've got, yes, it's plastic, don't judge. plastic bag on a recycling vlog. That's clever, isn't it? But never mind. So everything that really, the tiny scraps, I'm not getting obsessed with those. They're getting chopped up and they're getting put in here. When this is full, I'll get a bigger bag to put them in, but keep this small bag in my scrap bin for chopping up and just empty it as I go when it gets full, which, you know, it's getting there already. So that's the little tiny scraps, and they're going to be used for stuffing, for all sorts of things. I've got one on at the moment that I'm going to snaffle some of that because I'm making a wrist pincushion, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So I've got this full of scraps, and I am going to work my way through it. I'm not going to panic about it. I have got a few ideas for stuff that's in here. I've got a couple of bags I want to make. I've got quite a big piece of this needle cord, and I'm going to make a matching bag. I've got the bag pattern already, and again I'll pop the name of the bag pattern below and a little image of it here. It's a fairly easy pattern but a nice handbag, so I'm going to make that up. So that's getting rid of one of the pieces out of here, but I have got some ideas of what I'm going to use my scraps for. And if you want to bob back to my scrap busting vlog, I've got 5 woven and 5 jersey ideas to get me started, and I will be working on these in January. And at the end of January, I'll show you everything that I've made from my scrap bin, and we'll see where we're up to with it, and we'll do a monthly update, not a vlog on its own. It'll just get tagged onto one of my Monday vlogs, because I don't want to bang a drum about zero waste. It's just my journey, and if you want to join in a little bit on it, great. If you want to go whole hog and become a zero waste hero like I'm hoping to be, then join in. But even if you only take 50% of what I'm saying on board, it's a win. So I'm going to be working through my scraps, and I will be using that 5-point plan. So I have made a start on scrap busting, and I've made this cute bag. It was a free pattern from a YouTube video that just gave you the dimensions. So I will pop the link to the one that I used below, and you end up with this cute bag. Now this was the Nula cape coat from Coralie Bichesson, and I did have some spare fabric, so I've made this little bag. And when I'm using my scraps, I've decided for me the best way to do it is not to just randomly make stuff that I'm never going to use. I want them to be things that I need and that I will use, and then it will encourage me to make them. So one of my little projects for my scraps, the first theme is going to be sewing related. So things that I could take to a sewing social that will help, things for my sewing room that will help. You're getting my drift. So the first thing that I've made, this little bag, is going to be my social sewing kit bag. So I've made a few things. Well, I've made 2 actually. I've got a third that's cut out, but you know, it's been Christmas. Give a girl a break. So when I go to a social, a lot of the time they're in church halls, that can be a little bit drafty. Let's be honest. And I struggle with my hands. I am getting the starting of hand arthritis, and I need to try to keep my hands warm. So, an unusual first item for a sewing kit, but I've made these reversible fingerless gloves or mittens. Let's put one on for you, then you can see. They slide on to your wrist. They come quite high up so they keep your wrist warm. Your fingers are free, but they keep the rest of your hand nice and snuggly. I've done it in the bee fabric, which matches my top that I'm wearing, so maybe I always need to wear this top to a social. That'd be a bit silly. And they are fully reversible, so if I want to go plain, there we go, I can have them as a plain as well. So that's the first thing. And again, I will bob the link to, it's a YouTube video again that I watched and followed, and I will pop the link below if you fancy making some fingerless gloves or you want to follow me and make my little sewing kit. So that's the first thing in my social sewing bag. And then the second thing I've made, which I'm quite proud of, is something I've wanted for a while. And it's a needle minding kit, or a housewife's sewing saver kit. So let's open this up. So it's basically a rectangle of the wool fabric with a contrast fabric on the inside, all made from scraps. And I've bias bound it, put a pocket all the way along that goes from the front to the back, attached all those together, tacked them all together, and then bias bound them to create that. And then when I've done that, I've got, this is fleece, you can use felt, any fabric really that doesn't fray, basically, for your insides. And I've got my different sizes. So they're my general sewing needles. Then I've got some quilting needles on that one, and then huge tapestry needles on that one, and then at the back they're my knitting sewing needles for when I'm knitting. So we've got them all in there. In the front pocket, I've got a little pair of applique scissors and an unpicker. We all need an unpicker, don't we, girls? And in the back pocket, I've just put the different sizes of sewing machine needles. So, quite proud of that. Put a bit of elastic on, a couple of buttons, one on the front, one on the back, just to finish it off. And there we go. There's my little social sewing kit. So I've got that, and I've got the gloves. The third thing that I've got cut out, but not made yet, is a wrist pincushion. I'm doing the By Annie one and following her vlog, which is really, really good. It's quite a large pincushion, and it's just what it just looks like, one of the flower pincushions, but I'll pop the link below for that as well, because it's a little bit special. I really, really like that one. And I made one for everybody at my sewing social a while back. I think I did it for their little Christmas gift last year. And I never made myself one. So I'm going to make myself one. It's going to be in the leopard print that I've used for lining the bag. So that's on the go. If there's anything else that you can think that I can make to put in a social sewing kit in my little bag, let me know. The only other thing that I really want to make is the project bag from Country Cow Designs. Now obviously that's not going to fit in here, but it's a really good project bag with a divider in the middle, and I'm going to make one of those as well for taking to the socials. The other sewing themed thing is my little armchair sewing station that I want to make for when I'm doing hand stitching in the lounge to keep everything safe, because when you've got dogs, they're into everything. So I need to think about that. I want to be able to leave it out and then roll it up and tie it up and put it somewhere out of reach of naughty dogs. So I think that's enough to be going on with in January. But it's all going to be made out of my scrap bin. So I've made a few other little bits because, you know, I've got a lot of scraps. And I've made a keyhole scarf. Bob this on. Again, from a vlog, and I will pop the link below. So there's my little keyhole scarf. Might even take that to socials as well, because it's been made out of French terry and then a medium weight knit fabric on the inside, so not really bulky. When they're showing you how to make these, they tell you to make them out of fleece, but I quite like it made out of a lighter weight fabric. When you're putting it under a coat, it can get too bulky, and really like this one, so I've made myself that. And then I've made a few. Well, I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've made 6 headbands. So, you know, I've got a few. I said I needed them and I've got them. I'm going to use these for when I'm taking my makeup off, putting my makeup on, keep my hair out of the way. And they're going to come in really useful, and they've been made from the scraps of fabric. So when you're making these, you just need a piece of fabric that is, you measure the circumference of your head, take 2 inches off that. And again, I will pop the link below to the little vlog that I watched on how to do these. I can whiz these up from cutting out to finished in under 5 minutes. So they're a really good scrap buster. But I am realistic. I can't keep making them or I'm going to get buried in them, aren't I? But I've got 6 and I've made a start. So we've made our clothes, we've cut our pattern out, we've got our scraps, we know what we're doing with our scraps. We're going to keep it under control. We've made our garments and we wear them loads, and that's great. Some we wear, some we don't. And until we've made them and we start wearing them, it's a learning process, isn't it? And we're always going to end up with garments that we don't really love. Even though we loved the fabric, we loved making them, for whatever reason, we're not wearing them. So what do we do with our unwanted clothes? I've got 3 options, and if there's any more, please give me the ideas. So at the end of every season, so at the end of the winter, I try and keep my wardrobe fresh. So I will go through everything in my winter wardrobe before I transfer over to spring and summer. And I'm ruthless, I really am. And I pull out anything that I'm not really wearing. And I put them all on a rail together and I give them a month and I go through them. I wear them, I decide whether I've been mean to them and I need to start wearing them, and they go back into my wardrobe. If I really don't like them and I know I'm never going to wear them, then they don't go back in. But what do we do with those clothes? The one that I've not been doing, well, what I've been doing with mine is just bagging them all up and sending them off to charity, which is fine. But a lot of charity shops don't like me-made garments, and I'm led to believe that potentially these garments end up in landfill anyway. So that's defeating the object, isn't it? So what can I do to change it? I'm going to start looking at the garments more, and I'm going to look at the fabrics, deconstruct the garments if I love the fabric but not the garment, and I can think what I can make with them. Then I'm going to deconstruct those garments, and I'm going to have another bin the same size as the scrap bin that is deconstructed garments, and work my way through those. I might end up with a mountain of scrappy fabric and deconstructed fabric at the end of the year, but I'm going to give it a go and we'll see how that works. So the other thing that I'd started to do with garments that I really don't love is give them to friends who I think will wear them, or take them to the social. I go to a social in Yorkshire where they have a charity rail for me-made garments, and people can just put their garments on that rail. People decide if they want them and they donate whatever amount they want to a chosen charity. So that might be something that I introduce at my socials, but to start off with, I think I'm just going to take the garments that I really can't do anything with to the socials and see if somebody else wants them. They can deconstruct them if they like the fabric, can't they? Or they might love the garment more than I do. And then the last resort is obviously donate to charity. So there we go. Zero waste in 2026. Do you think I'm going to be able to do it? I'm going to give it a really good go, because it's pricked my conscience this year. I've got to be honest. The amount of fabric that I am just throwing away in the bin is scandalous. So I'm taking ownership of my own problem, and hopefully I will become a zero waste hero in 2026. And how am I going to do that? I've already gone over it, but just to recap, I'm going to be buying my fabric with intention, not buying any fabric on a whim, and buying very little fabric online. And I'm going to use my scraps. Instead of searching online for nice new fabric and patterns, I'm going to be searching online for scrap busting ideas and utilising them, and trying to keep my scrap bin under control. And the last thing I'm going to be doing is my version of a make, do and mend. Any garment that comes out of my wardrobe, hopefully will get, if I like the fabric, it's going to get deconstructed and reused into another garment or an item from my scrap list, and we'll see how we go. And I will be keeping a pile. I'm not going to donate to charity. What I'm going to do is have a bag where I can't do anything with them, and I'm going to keep them all. And then at the end of the year, we'll have another look at them and see whether they can be rescued or whether I've just got to donate to charity. But it'd be interesting to see how many items are actually in that bag and whether I can keep it under control. So wish me luck. If you want to join in, let me know, and we'll help each other go zero fabric waste in 2026.